How do you talk to yourself when you mess up? When you slip into an old habit, or you lose your temper, or you get overwhelmed? When your mental health gets rough again? When you promised yourself that this time would be different, and then it wasn't? What does that voice inside your head sound like? Hi, I'm Scarlett Classic, and welcome to Classic Advice, a mental health podcast offering guidance for resilient souls, anchoring calm amid the chaos. If you're like me, then your inner voice is probably pretty brutal. And after a while, living with that voice can get really exhausting. And we start to believe that inner critic. And I have said it on the show before, and I will say it again. Your thoughts sometimes lie to you. So we need to be very, very careful what thoughts we take as truth. And when we are self-aware enough to realize when we are being too hard on ourselves, can make our mental health so much better. For example, if someone else made the same mistake as you, and that inner voice, the things that you say to yourself, would you talk to another human being or to your child that way? The things that you say to yourself, would you say to somebody else? If your answer is no, then why are you being so hard on yourself? And I'm talking to myself as well. Like, why do I have to be this hard on myself? When I wouldn't say that to somebody else. But I'll say it to myself. You know, if your friend made a mistake, would you say, "Oh, you're pathetic," or "You never change," or how dare you? Like, what's wrong with you? You always ruin everything. You're so overdramatic. You always overreact. You always start fights. Would you say that to someone? Probably not. You would be a lot more understanding and a lot softer. You might need to learn hard truths like, yes, you started that fight. Yes, you overreacted. Yes, you did this. However, after enough repetition of really, really harsh language, we stop questioning that voice and we just start believing it. And that can be so damaging to our own self-worth and self-esteem, which is something that I struggle with. What does that inner voice sound like on your worst days? Is it motivating you, or is it silently, well, I guess not silently, is it destroying you? That voice you hear every day, you start to believe it. I've had people say things to me over and over again, and when they first said it, I never believed it. But over time, after hearing it over and over and over again, I started to believe it. And your inner voice is no different. There's a difference between accountability and taking ownership for when we mess up and self-hatred. And hate is a very strong word, but like that self-loathing. Sometimes we hear self-compassion and we think that it's just letting us off the hook. That accountability isn't there if we're not, mean enough to ourselves. But accountability and that self-loathing is not the same thing. We can admit that we made a mistake. We can say that I need to do better. We can take on that responsibility and go say sorry and change. Let that drive change instead of self-loathing, because we don't need to beat ourselves up emotionally because then that shame sets in, and shame doesn't really create that lasting change. But if we feel guilty, that can lead to change. Because shame is like hopelessness, where guilt is like, I gotta do better. And it can drive that change, because there's that balance. When we show self-compassion to ourselves, I think that we're a lot more likely to keep trying and change after a failure, because we don't get trapped in a shame spiral. When our brains feel that constant threat or criticism, that emotional attack, it can drive us into dissociating or shutting down, or what's the point because I'm never going to change kind of thinking. That's why really, really harsh self-talk can backfire and keep us stuck, because we dissociate and we just don't even want to try after. So are you gently correcting yourself, or are you attacking yourself? Is your inner voice encouraging you towards growth and change? Are you having that self-respect or that self-loathing? Because we can hold ourselves accountable without, becoming our own enemy and bully, basically. That shame spiral is almost like a rumination spiral, because we replay it and we don't forgive ourselves. We feel like we need the punishment, so we just stay in it. We stay in the punishment because we don't believe that we deserve forgiveness. So that just keeps twisting the knife in the wound, and it leaves it open. Instead of getting stuck in that shame spiral, learning from our mistakes, instead of just staying stuck in it and ruminating on it. I don't think any of us want to stay stuck in a shame spiral. We want actual change. But for actual change to happen, we need to be very self-aware of how we talk to ourselves, because we can't heal in an environment that our own voice is attacking us all the time. That's hurtful. That's being like stuck in pain. Maybe what we need is a little bit of a softer voice. Not an excuse, not excusing the behavior, not avoidance, just maybe a little bit kinder. One that's just a little bit more steady, a little bit more anchoring. One that says, yeah, I messed up, but I'm going to learn from this. One bad day doesn't erase the progress that I've already made, and I'm allowed to try again. To not get stuck in fear that we can't change, to not get stuck in the idea that we can't possibly change, and self-loathing, but leaning into honesty, accountability, self-compassion, so that our healing can last, and we can grow, and we can learn, and we can use the mistake as a teaching moment. What kind of inner voice would help you actually heal? What if encouragement that you will do better next time, instead of more punishment and more shame? What if being gentler with yourself helped you move on faster, so you don't get stuck in that shame spiral? Sometimes what we need is not more punishment, but a little bit more patience, that voice in our head, that self-talk, really matters. Because we hear it every day. It's constant. And if that voice only shows up to criticize and shame and tear you apart and tear you down, eventually we stop believing that we can change and that we're capable of changing. Maybe today is a good day to start being very aware of our thoughts and very aware of that inner voice, and not taking every single thought as fact, but questioning it and rewriting it if we need to. Because we're not perfect. We're just human. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Advice, guidance for resilient souls. May you stay anchored in what steadies you, rise resilient through what challenges you, and carry calm into whatever comes next. Take care. Love ya. Bye.